Okay, so here we are on the much waited for interview. It seemed like everything in the world tried to prevent this thing from going down. But I have her here. This is our chef. Well, she actually knows everything. This is our chef and marketing coordinator at Vita Clay, Chef Leah. I always mess this up. Leah Anduiza. Is that correct?
That's right. Thank
All
you.
right, awesome. Sorry, I butchered it again.
No problem.
Leah Anduiza. Okay, so let's talk about all the interesting things that I've been raving about forever. So, for instance, just to get started, there's some interesting things about the machine itself. And if I am right, the Vita Clay is a slow cooker. Is that right?
It is technically classified as a slow cooker. Probably a better description is multi-cooker because it can do so many different things. So obviously it has a rice cooker involved in it. It's a built-in rice cooker and a built-in slow cooker. It's so-called slow cooker because it's not actually all that slow. And then it also has several of our models also have a yogurt maker built in. So so actually it does a lot of different things. It can also steam. It can ferment. Basically at room temperature, it could be a fermentation crock. It can do a lot of different things that aren't encompassed in the term slow cooker. And also slow cooker, you generally think of something cooking all day long. And with Vita Clay, the vast majority, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 things I can think of, are going to be done in less than 2 hours. So it's basically not that slow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do notice that a lot of my food does get done a lot faster. Okay, you do get some quick grub with a slow cooker. So let's talk about that because if I'm right on the box, it's like 4x, 4 times faster or something. Let's talk about that. How is it doing that? Why is a slow cooker going so fast? We got a turbo cooker here.
Right. So generally, slow cookers will heat up very, 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 very slowly. And then they kind of hold a simmering temperature all day long. So it's kind of a lower temperature and it just cooks it for a long time. Vita Clay, especially our multi-cookers and our 2-in-1 cookers, they seal. There's a housing around the clay pot that's actually sealed. So there's a little bit of pressure that builds up in there. And I wouldn't go so far as saying it's a true pressure cooker, but we call it micro pressure that builds up inside.
Huh? The little gasket. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, a little gasket on each of the cookers that that does regulate the pressure in there and lets some steam escape, but it does seal. So it does build up a little bit of pressure. So that contributes to cooking faster. And it does come up to a boil faster than a traditional slow cooker. So it'll bring it up to a boil and then it'll bring it back down to a simmer. But that bringing it up faster does speed up cooking a lot.
Okay, very cool. So that's how it's similar to a pressure cooker, but not. So you've got, yeah, okay, awesome. I'm happy with it. It's got everything in one pot. It's a very cool little machine. And I see we're about to learn some more about this guy. So another thing that's really interesting and kind of pressing is this whole Zisha Clay. So it's a special clay that comes from China, and it seems like it makes things a little bit better. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, there's a difference in taste when you're cooking with the Vita Clay, but does it really taste different than cooking in other materials?
Okay. So basically, Zisha means, it's a Chinese word, it means purple clay. And they've been using this specific clay out of one region of China for like thousands of years. If you go to China, or if you go to just a Chinese tea shop or something, you'll see their little clay pot sets that it's made of clay and they look kind of reddish or even like darker, like almost a purple color.
Okay, say that again. How do you pronounce it? I'm calling it Zisha.
Yeah, the Chinese word is Zisha because Z means Z means purple, and sha means dirt or clay or mud, that kind of
really?
idea. So it's purple dirt or purple clay. That's the term for it in Chinese. So they've used it, you know, in their teapots for a long time, and also for cooking in some places. And so the founder of Vita Clay, she grew up actually in China, and she grew up eating out of these clay pots. And so she really missed it when she immigrated to the US, and thought, you know, it would be great if we could have this material that's really safe and makes really good food, but as you said, update it to America and our busy lifestyles so that we don't have to dig a hole in our yard and build a fire. You know, we can just use it in our homes.
Oh, you know what? Let me bring everybody in, because we were talking about that. We were having our own conversation there
Right.
before we started this. So what we were talking about a bit earlier, digging a hole in your yard and whatnot, is what inspired me to start talking with Vita Clay. Well, that takes me back to this thing called a palayok. In the Philippines, there are these cooking vessels, the traditional clay pot, and it's called a palayok. Maybe I'm still butchering that a little, but anyway, that's what that thing is called, or at least that's how my bad English, bad Tagalog makes it sound. And it is a clay pot that you throw your food in there, you line it with banana leaves, throw your grub in, and cook it. You can either put it in coals, or you put it on this stove-shaped apparatus, very small, and you stoke it with coal or wood, and allow the flames to stay, you know, a couple of inches from the clay, and cook your food that way. So we're chatting about that, because that was the backstory that brought me into the Vita Clay, because I wanted to electrify one of these things. I think that everybody needs to eat out of this. That was my big epiphany in the Philippines, when looking at the health of many people who lived very, very far out in the province. A lot of their skeletons would be amazing, absolutely amazing, just rock solid. Well, also they were eating a diet, a traditional diet that was comprised of root crops and many things that are very rich in minerals. Okay, also people do cheat just a little bit. They live on a volcanic island, so they get a lot of minerals into their bodies. But I feel the polyolk had a large part to do with it. So that drove me to this. So that brings it all full circle, and Leah and I were sitting there laughing about that before we started this conversation. So that brings you in, and well, that was my whole aside. What should we talk about now?
Well, so if I could add a little bit to that, yeah, so traditionally, people for thousands of years have been eating a certain way. And that doesn't mean that, okay, there's this one diet that everybody needs to follow. Like a lot of people like the Mediterranean diet or the paleo diet or whatever. Actually, this man was a dentist in the 30s named Weston A. Price. If you've heard of him,
Yeah, he's the
spawned
man.
this whole traditional food movement since then. But basically, he was a dentist in the 1930s, and he was noticing in the Depression era that a lot of children were just like, this generation coming up was not healthy. Like they were more obese kids. Their teeth weren't good. Everybody's teeth, they had a lot of tooth decay. Their facial structure itself was deteriorating. Like there were a lot of problems coming out, like birth defects and that kind. He was just noticing this, and he was like, what is going on, right? And he linked it to a theory that he had, that processed food was really damaging our health. And this had started probably late 1800s, when processed sugar and flour started coming into the mainstream and people could afford it, and everybody was eating these new processed foods. At first they were really expensive, so not that many people had them. Then they started getting mass produced, and people started eating all kinds of white flour. And that's why they started adding synthetic vitamins back into the flour, because once they processed it, people were getting really sick by just eating that. So anyway, this all came from, so this doctor, this dentist in the 1930s, Weston A. Price, noticed this, and he was like, okay, I'm going to travel around the world, and I'm going to look at societies traditional societies that are still eating their traditional diets. And I'm going to see what their health looks like compared to people in those same regions that are now eating processed food. And he wrote a book that is still very popular today. Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, I believe, is the title of the book. I can look that up and make sure, but it's Weston A. Price is the author.
Nutrition and Physical Degeneration?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure that's
yeah, I'll see if I can grab that, but yeah, keep on going.
It's fascinating, and it has lots of pictures too as well, so you can see the differences between, he'll say, I'm showing you brothers, basically. He'll go to a family and say, this brother really likes to eat bread and like processed food and jam and sugar, and this brother just eats the traditional food. And he'll show you that one of them like is noticeably healthier. Like one has clear, bright skin. They have kind of a wider facial structure with a big smile. No problems with their teeth. The other brother, the teeth are all crowded. The face is kind of, it usually is skinnier, like not as wide, which causes the crowding of the teeth, that kind of thing. And their skin isn't clear. They just look not as healthy. They're not as strong, not as tall, not as healthy.
Well,
right?
what you're talking about, his observations are supporting a lot of doctors' work, and what you're looking at is failure of the growth plates to thrive, to burgeon. They're not growing because there's just not enough minerals to fuel proper development. So that leads to a stunted, smaller, also lower intellect person. Not that necessarily everyone who is malnourished has a lower IQ, but nutrition, specifically iodine, plays a direct role in cognitive function. So yeah, that's some really, really amazing stuff. How he was finding food is changing how you look. You are hot if you eat hot food. You are ugly if you eat ugly food.
Exactly. So it's just really across the board. It affects every aspect of your health, and it does start before conception. It starts with the mother, and traditional societies have always taken a couple of years before they got pregnant, the women,
Gotta load up.
Build up their health so that they will have healthy babies, and so that they can have a good pregnancy and recovery and a good delivery. It affects everything.
It does. Love your mama, because your mama gives you all those minerals. If your mama is not eating prior to you coming into existence, you are not going to get as many minerals as you can, because it's going to be a mineral tug of war between you and mom. And these things are called symptoms. These things are called, let's say, preeclampsia or gestational diabetes. Oh, that's because you, as a fetus, became very hungry and started munching away on those minerals, and she didn't have enough to supply both you, the fetus, and herself. So there became a nutritional tug of war. So that's why the Vita Clay comes back in there again. I love you, Vita Clay. It comes back because it helps you get at the nutrition. Now, we can talk about this too, that a lot of the food that you're getting, it needs to be imbued with minerals to start with. And that's a whole nother topic. But one of the most important things is being able to break down that food and get to those nutrients that are there. And that's where the Vita Clay comes in. But you're getting me on a soapbox here. Continue on. Sorry.
Right. I'm trying not to get too far off topic.
Yeah, I'm just on track, just going all over the place. You gotta stop me.
No. So basically the reason I'm explaining all of this about traditional food is because it does tie in really well with Vita Clay, because clay basically in every traditional society has been used as the cooking material of choice for every society in
God made
the world.
dirt, and dirt don't hurt.
Right, definitely. So, I mean, what is the most plentiful, abundant thing that everybody has access to? It's dirt. It's always under our feet, right? So every society has dug up some dirt and made a clay pot out of it and put their food in there and cooked it. And so you'll go to any place, India, the Philippines, obviously, China, anywhere in Asia, anywhere, I mean, a lot of places in Europe, Morocco, Africa, anywhere, South America, they've all used clay pots, and they all have like specialty dishes that they still cook, and they'll only cook it in clay because it just tastes better in clay. So, so taking this idea of traditional, and traditional is better for us because it's what we've been eating for thousands of years as a human race, is going to be the best thing for our health overall. So clay has been time tested, it's proven it, and it just makes all the food taste better as well. So that's an added benefit, but not even the best one. The best thing is that we know it's safe. It's not going to leach any chemicals, any toxins, any heavy metals into our food. And it's going to make the food taste better. And with Vita Clay, it's so easy. You don't have to build a fire. You don't have to make the clay yourself. You don't have to have a fire pit in your backyard. You can just turn on Vita Clay and you get these benefits of the clay. And it's so easy in our, fast-paced societies. Obviously, we need something we can just do without having to worry about it.
And there's the set it and forget it part. Also, you got a delay timer on that guy, right?
Yes. So the multi-cooker and the stock pot both have delay features. So basically, you just set it to the function that you want to cook, and then you set when you want it to start, and it'll start cooking later on so that it'll be super fresh and it'll be ready as soon as you're ready to eat it.
Very cool. Now, I think you just ran something new by my nose there. You said a stock pot. Is that right?
Yes, that's our newest model. The stock pot came out in November 2016. So that's our newest model. So the multi-cooker is still the most versatile, and it'll do the most different things. But the stock pot, you can make, it's bigger. So you can make more, because bone broth is really all the rage right now. And actually it's super awesome for you. Bone broth is like the best thing you can do is make that and just put it in everything. And it's basically better than free because you can use bones that you were just going to throw away. Or anyway, if you get soup bones, they're really cheap. But it's a super economical and super healthy thing to do is to make bone broth. It's even being sold in the stores now, but it's like so expensive it's not even worth it because it's like free to make at home. Why would you buy it, right? So bone broth is a good thing. So we had a lot of requests for bigger Vita Clay models because a lot of people wanted to make bone broth and they wanted to make big batches of it. So we have this 6.5 quart stock pot that just came out. It's still like fully automated and fully electronic. It just has a bigger clay pot.
That's exciting because that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Hot food makes you hot, ugly food makes you ugly. This is a way to get some hot food if you're ugly and unugly.
Right.
What I mean is the collagen that you're getting in the bones will help to reconstitute your tissue, reconstitute your collagen. As I'm always saying, I'm telling people all the time, I want you to eat like a lion, but you can't sit down and start chewing through bones. Don't want you to do that. Your dentist will be mad. But what you can do is render down the bones by using a Vita Clay, and you get liquid bones. Now, what's better than that? Liquid bone goes right into your system. Now, what's even better is there's a little something out there called the USP, the United States Pharmacopoeial Standards. This mitigates or dictates everything that goes into our body, supplements, whatnot. They're kind of the rule makers on that stuff. Well, they say that if something is solid and has been tagged with the right t-shirts, the right team jerseys to go in your body, that's called the chelate. You're absorbing it anywhere between 20 and 40%. With American standard GI integrity being pretty bad, I would say that it's on the lower end, let's say 25%. Well, if we look at the other side of things, the USB says, well, if you want the best absorption, you're going to get about 98%, 95, 98% with a liquid, and that's called a colloid. Well, in order to get this fancy supplement, you need a slow cooker, just like this, because what you do is you're rendering down that bone and you're doing it in such a manner that allows it to be electrically charged and suspended into the water column. So now you have liquid bone. So if you want bones, drink bones. There you go. And they're going to have the best absorption. according to all those
Definitely.
fancy scientists.
Yeah. And that's also a very traditional idea. Basically, if you eat something from an animal, that thing is going to give you similar benefits. So if you eat skin, it's going to help your skin. If you eat bones, it's going to help your bones. And also the joints. So the collagen and the gelatin that comes out of the joints is really good for your joints.
I have
And
not told anyone to eat eyes yet. Saying that I
right.
should get on some eyeball eating.
Well, I'm sure that somebody eats them out there. I don't know, maybe somewhere in China. They pretty much try to eat everything, but I've never come across that. Yeah, but basically, that's a traditional idea that that I came across at one point, actually in China, and I was like, that's kind of a silly idea, right? Like the thing that you eat is going to help you,
No, makes sense.
but actually, it does make sense,
Yeah.
and it
A
is
lot of
true.
herbs even look like body parts. Look.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Yeah, and they help that body part. So it's very interesting
Mhm.
when you come across that in nature. So
Very cool. So let me ask you a little bit of this. You've talked a lot about this. I think we talked about a lot about traditional foods, but tell me a little about what is a traditional food, and then hit me with an emergency recipe. Because I think traditional foods are like the clean things, things that our forefathers ate. But define that a little for me, and give me something that I can just pull out of my pocket that's going to be traditional, nice and clean when I underestimated the leftovers in the fridge that morning. And I got to get some grits quick.
okay, yeah. So traditional foods are basically just whole untouched food. So it'd be if you go to the store and it doesn't have a label on it and it's not processed in any way, it's not in a box, it doesn't have a list of ingredients, it's just going to be the food basically. And obviously if you can get organic, that would be a little even
The way it's
closer.
found in nature, raw.
True, yeah, even closer to a traditional diet because it doesn't have anything added, no chemicals or fertilizers, even when it's being grown or raised. So that you just try to get back as far as you can before technology and before any processing. And
Hey,
get
like the animals do. You have never gone to a national park or any park in your life and seen a bird swooping down to the water and grabbing sugar packet in its claws and flying off. You know?
right because it's not natural. It's not what we're made to eat.
Oh,
So yeah, definitely. So just get as close to the ground as you can, and just stay away as much as you can from anything that is basically has ingredients or so you want to eat ingredients, but not anything with ingredients, right? So you can
yeah.
start there, right? And
Whole
just eat the
food.
whole food. Yeah.
Yeah. You.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so that's traditional food or the idea of it. And also just as I said before, Weston A. Price, just going back to the traditional diets of our ancestors. And this also ties in with like where you came from, your heritage, because our bodies have adapted over time to certain foods. So a lot of people that are lactose intolerant are from Asia or that region where there wasn't a lot of milk consumed by those people in the past several thousand years, and so their bodies have adapted in that way. So there are certain foods that are better for you based on your ethnicity too. So that's something else to look into. If you have a food sensitivity or allergy, it may have stemmed from from where you came from originally and what your body can really handle. So it's different for different people, right? But generally, traditional diets are any traditional diet from anywhere in the globe is beneficial. So some of the diets are highly grain based. Some of them have no grains at all. Some of them are highly milk based. Some of them have no milk at all. So cutting out one entire food group and saying this isn't healthy for anybody isn't necessarily true.
Yeah.
There are examples of traditional societies all over the world that incorporate all of these foods. So you don't have to limit yourself to the Mediterranean diet and only what they can eat there. Because all over the world, there's a village in the Swiss Alps that almost all they eat is milk and milk-based products. And they're some of the tallest, healthiest, strongest people in the world. So you can't say nobody should eat milk. You know what I mean?
Milk
Like that.
addicts.
Right. So it's
So would you say that there is one uniting thread throughout all healing foods, throughout all traditional foods worldwide? Because we can't say that this one is better than that one's better than this one, so on and so forth. But there is something that's uniting all of these.
right. And I would just say that it's closest to the source. It's untreated, unpackaged,
Minerals.
unprocessed. Yeah. So I mean, when I say that the Swiss Village is milk based, it's raw milk based. It's not
Yes,
pasteurized
yes, yes.
based.
Never, ever, ever beat up your milk and heat it. Don't do that. Milk doesn't like it. If you
Right.
were shaken up and heated, flash pasteurized, you wouldn't be a happy camper either. So don't do that to your milk.
Right. So basically, don't do anything to it. You know, the food that you eat should be minimally processed. It should start as a whole raw food, and if you need to cook it a little bit, do that. If some foods are good raw, some you have to cook, obviously, but just no processing would be great, right? If you can make it in your kitchen, then it's fine. That's basically, you start with the whole ingredients and you can make it in your kitchen, then you can eat it. That's why I don't like things like canola oil and soybean oil, because it takes an industrial process and chemical synthesizers and all kinds of deodorizers to make that palatable. So I don't want that in my body. I can't make that in my kitchen. That's not something that my body is going to recognize. So yeah, I would just say unprocessed is the thread that we're looking for.
Awesome. So you hit upon something that's really important. Also, it allows us to get a little segue. And that is things that you can make in your kitchen. And we're talking about how food it's healing, it's medicinal, right? Oh,
Yes.
let's get into some of those guys that are there to help us, specifically probiotics. And I call probiotics people. I call everything people, really. But we'll say that probiotics, they're everything from general contractors to, police. They are your defenses. They do a little bit they're also farmers. They do a little bit of everything for you. And there's a lot of talk about probiotics, and they are a little difficult to get. And when you really get into probiotics, you find that a lot of junk on the shelf is really dead. And so you're wasting a lot of money on that which is on the shelf. How can we use a Vita Clay to get our probiotics at home in the kitchen?
Okay. Yeah. So the importance of probiotics really has been downplayed in our society and by our medical establishment for a long time. But I have seen numbers as high as 90%, that our bodies are made up of up to 90% beneficial bacteria. So that's by volume DNA. So basically, we are not human. We are bacteria.
Yeah.
We're only basically 10% human. A body has that much more bacteria than it does human DNA. So these bacteria are extremely important to our well-being and to the balance in our bodies. And so it's very important to get probiotics in your diet and to keep that balance and to keep the good bugs up. They also are 80% of our immune system, so they fight the bad bacteria. And especially if you've ever had antibiotics in your life, antibiotics will kill off your good bacteria, especially in your gut.
Well, it's a
And
nuke. You just
yeah,
you just dropped a nuke on New York when you're trying to get 5 terrorists. Why don't you hand everybody a couple of guns and some pictures? Here's the guys, go get them.
exactly. So, and so many things in our diet and even over-the-counter medications can kill our good bacteria in our gut. So it's important to constantly be replenishing those good bacteria, because there's just so many things that are killing them that we're getting into our bodies.
So true.
So as far as Vita Clay, obviously the first thing we'd go to is, since most of our cookers do have a yogurt maker incorporated into it, that's the easiest thing to make with Vita Clay. All you need is milk and a culture, and you stir it up in Vita Clay and push the yogurt button and then wait 8 hours, and it will incubate it at a temperature of 110, which is raw. So you can use raw milk if you would like, and it won't heat it to kill the bacteria. or the enzymes. So you'll get the most beneficial yogurt that you can. Yogurt in the store, some of them do have live bacteria and cultures. You can see it on the back. It'll list it as an ingredient. The problem is a lot of those, well, almost all of them are made with pasteurized milk to begin with, but then after that, a lot of them are pasteurized after it's made. So pasteurization is going to kill all of the
Double
bacteria.
pasteurization.
Right. So they're using pasteurized milk, then they pasteurize the yogurt after they make it because they don't want it to develop any kind of problem on the shelf, right? That's going to make people sick. So they have to cover, everything and make sure they're not sickening people.
That hurts me deeply.
I know. And so then after that, they might add some more bacteria back in. But you're seeing that it's not a live product that you're buying off the shelf in the stores. I don't know of any that don't pasteurize. Most of them do. But the easiest, cheapest, most beneficial way as far as nutrients and enzymes and probiotics is to make it yourself. And so if you have an easy way to do that, definitely do it at home. It's so much cheaper, pennies on the dollar, and it's so much better for you. So why not do it, right? So Vita Clay makes that easy, and actually clay batch yogurt is amazing. And there's only maybe 1 or 2 brands that I know of that actually make clay batch yogurt that you can buy in the store, but they're like $6 for an 8-ounce cup or something. Like, they're really expensive. And I was like, wow, I can just make this at home in my Vita Clay, right? Like, it's so easy. So, you can make the best yogurt that's available and make it better than the store and make it so much cheaper in Vita Clay.
Awesome. That's really cool then. You have control of your gut there. For the probiotics. So it's looking, I mean, I've been living with this guy for a long time, and I'm really a fan of him. Just looking at how it goes through the systems. How is this food unit going through the different systems of our body and helping? We're talking about traditional foods, how that works out, probiotics. Hey, I got something. How about macrobiotics? How about just general, real basic?
Okay. So, I mean, the general idea, as I understand it, of macrobiotics is like really balance in your diet. It's sort of a yin and yang philosophy coming from Asia. And it's a lot of balance between it's all whole foods, but grains and proteins and fats, and then getting enough fermented foods as well. So you'll see things like brown rice, miso soup, and then it depends on which strain you follow, if you eat meat or not. But that kind of balance between all the different components of food. So basically just balancing your diet so that your body is in harmony with itself.
Tell me about let's ferment something. Give me something.
Okay.
Something stinky.
Okay. So I like to do sauerkraut, and I like to experiment with sauerkraut. And it's funny, I read an article in Time or somewhere that had a study that they measured the probiotics in homemade sauerkraut. And I think it was like 1 to 2 ounces of homemade sauerkraut had more live probiotic activity than a whole bottle of store-bought probiotics. And those store-bought probiotics are expensive, right? I mean, a head of cabbage, you can make like 3 jars of sauerkraut, right? And then just a little bit of that has more probiotics in it than a whole like $30-$40 bottle of probiotics from the store.
The process of fermenting that would also keep your in-laws away. So it's double acting.
Yeah, especially like kimchi is very stinky. But so you definitely can use the Vita Clay pot as a fermentation crock as well. It's a good environment to ferment food. You wouldn't necessarily use the housing for it because usually you'll put the crock in a dark, cool place. So you could use the clay pot and basically you just, for sauerkraut and that sort of thing, usually all you need is the thing itself and maybe a little bit of salt. And then sometimes you add different ingredients. So sauerkraut can be made so many different ways. You can use different types of cabbages. You can add onions carrots or lots of different types of vegetables that can be fermented. Almost any vegetable can be fermented. I've fermented salsa before. Oh my gosh, so good. Yeah.
Fermented salsa.
It's so good. It's got this like zing to it, and you're like, wow, that was really good. So another thing that can be used is whey. So if you make yogurt, and you can make it in the Vita Clay, the whey is that liquid that's sitting on top of the yogurt when it's done. So you can strain that off into a jar and keep it in the fridge. And then whenever you want to ferment something, add a little bit of that whey, and that will lacto ferment pretty much anything. You can mix it into salsa, a batch of salsa you just made, and then let it sit on the counter for a couple days. And when you open the jar, it'll be sizzling.
So
like,
whey is
bubbling.
Ferment anything.
Yeah, you can ferment a lot of, I've seen so many things. I haven't done all of them, but you can ferment guacamole, you can ferment hummus, you can ferment salsas, and do all different kinds like mango salsa, peach salsa, whatever. And then obviously there's so many different kinds of sauerkraut and kimchi that you can make. So almost any vegetable, carrots. I've seen obviously like pickles.
Yeah, out there.
Yeah,
salsa
definitely.
And guacamole is new on me.
Yeah, I haven't actually tried that. I'm a little scared because the avocado is brown so fast, right? So I'm like, how's that? I don't know.
A lot of oil, a lot of oxidation.
Yeah. So I haven't tried that one, but the salsa is really good.
Awesome. So we have been at it for quite a while. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm really appreciative of the time there. We're going to get back together, probably do another segment here in a bit, but thank you so much for your time today. Let's let you go, because I know you got many other things to do besides sit here and talk to me about my fascinations with food and whatnot. Do you have any other interesting things, like some quick things that we can use? This is a really fun little device, the old Vita Clay, and I now incorporating it into my life. I still find myself making the same errors, like, oh, I think I have enough food for tonight. Come home, oh no, I was wrong. And then I have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to find something really quick so I can get to sleep, get the full 8-9 hours, and all that healthy stuff. So any extras? I know you gave me one earlier. Is there something really cool that you could throw on us before you leave?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things to make in Vita Clay is one-pot meals, and one really easy one is rice and fish. So, I mean, most people like rice, and fish is really good for you, so a lot of people like fish too. Basically, all you need to do is make rice in your Vita Clay, which it has a dedicated rice cooker, and it has buttons for brown rice or white rice or sweet rice, which is like sushi rice. So whatever kind of rice you want to make, just make the rice in Vita Clay, and then about 10 minutes before it's done cooking, open it up and throw a few fish fillets on the top. And by the time it's done cooking, it will have steamed those fish fillets, and then you have an easy one-pot meal that's done in about 30 to 40 minutes. And it's ready, and it's done in less than an hour, and the whole family can enjoy a healthy meal at the last minute.
Now, what if you're avoiding seafood?
Right. So you could do the same thing with, it's even easier if you use like chicken or beef or like a sausages or something. You could do rice and throw in, before you even start cooking, just throw in some meat and veggies. And then you get like you can throw in beans, and you could do like a bean and rice dish, or so you can throw it in before you start cooking and just hit rice, and then it'll be done by the time you're finished. So when it's
into
finished
the standing water.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. And I like to add even spices and things into the water before I start cooking, and sometimes like coconut oil and butter in there, and then it just comes out to be like a really substantial dish.
That sounded pretty amazing there. Well, definitely, we're going to have to try that. Well, thanks for everything. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure everybody's going to love this, because it has been a little bit since I've put out something exciting, but this is definitely going to make some differences. Well, thank you millions, and we will get together and chat about some healthy stuff again soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.